I'm a DJ boy, going to Dcentral, making NFT, from DeFi use, being crypto poor but JPay rich.
Yet, I have to introduce our next speaker. So, in order to better onboard into this experience of Web3, you need to make it fun, exciting, and engaging. How else do you do that other than gamifying your ability to interact with smart contracts? Our next speaker is going to speak on just that. So, please join me in welcoming to the stage, representing Divine Anarchy, Diversity. Woo!
So you guys just watched like a little 15-second clip that we made. That's just some of the examples that we can use anime in order to start making more engaging content when it comes to Web3 interactions and Web3 in general. That what we just showed was actually 2 NFTs that we have. So we actually have Monarchs, which was who you saw sitting there in the computer and typing away. It's actually my Monarch. And then there was a spirit animal, which was we call the Shinigami, that was up top, picking it up. So this is just one little example of how you can start building out an experience and kind of showing people like what they can do with NFTs. So first of all, we'll start out with who am I, right? So I'm actually, my full name is Austin Stanfield. This is my first time being doxxed, actually. I'm the CEO and the CTO for Anarchy Studio, which owns Divine Anarchy, which is the what you just saw as a small clip. I started in development as a old school RuneScape private server developer. I started teaching myself there, and that's kind of like how I got into development. I started at a super young age until PayPal actually shut me down for being underage. So that's kind of when I exited RuneScape private servers because I couldn't pay for servers anymore. I also lived in Florida. I'm an active FPS gamer. I actually had a brief professional career in Black Ops 2. And then I went on to CSGO at the time, played in main, or CVO main. And now I play pretty much Valorant and old school RuneScape pretty much exclusively whenever I do have time. I'm an avid crypto investor, so I've been trading crypto since 2013. RuneScape is actually kind of like where I got into cryptocurrency, as well as my brother. My brother taught me about it really early on when Bitcoin was kind of just becoming a thing. I also am an educator in the space, so every Tuesday I try to do a Twitter space with people, and I talk about Solidity development as well as contracts. So I've even contributed to the ERC 721A contract that Azuki originally deployed with True Labs. So let's start out with what is Divine Anarchy now that you guys know who I am. So Divine Anarchy is a platform that's developed by Anarchy Studio. And Anarchy Studio's mission is to bring Web3 to the masses. Anarchy Studio, or Divine Anarchy, supports this mission statement by creating gamified Web3 interactions. And with those interactions, we used a branded anime style, which actually helps bring attention basically to our project. So for trying to get people into NFTs, if they really like anime, this gives them a reason to kind of come into NFTs as well as the Web3 space. We are also nominated for Project of the Year in 2021. This was from NFT Awards, and this is back when we launched in November. So let's define a few things first. So what is a Web3 interaction? And that's very simply put is the ability to read and modify ownership. So when we talk about Web3 ownership, that's the authenticity of owning something through an address, and prove that the reason that we have that authenticity is by a network, a decentralized network. So for example, Ethereum, which is what we are run on. When we talk about what is reading ownership, this is when you look at a wallet address and you're like, okay, if you look at my wallet address, which has an ENS, divvy.eth, you actually can see the assets that I own, and you can read from a contract that Divi.eth owns these things, and that's when you're reading ownership directly from a contract in a decentralized network. When you're talking about modifying ownership, this has to do with like when you're moving an asset, right? So if I am to transfer a NFT to somebody else, that's actually giving them the ownership to and the rights to that token. So let's talk about some features of Web3. And that's when we talk about wallet identity. This is the ability to verify who you are, and that comes up with your public address. We have wallet signatures. This allows us to actually prove that identity without creating an interaction directly with the contract. So you can just make a signature, and then we can verify that on the server side as saying, hey, I am this guy, and I do want to do this. And it doesn't allow anybody else to make that transaction. Smart contracts also are really great for this. This is allowing us to kind of build a trusted intermediary, right? It's like a escrow that two people can make an agreement with. You're sure that this thing is going to happen because the code says it's going to happen in that way. And then we also use NFTs to personalize experiences. And that's through metadata. So some of the efforts that we have for gamifying Web3 interactions is we launched our first collection. So in our first collection, we had 9 bloodlines. We had 2 factions for heroes and nemesis, and then we had voting power for governance. And then we had a ton of traits that allowed people to kind of like modify or like whatever they liked, pick out and personalize. Then we launched our first kind of platform interaction, which was the Divine Tribunal, and we used signatures in that, governance, as well as we did airdrops based on what the people got or what they voted for. And then we used the metadata directly attached to the NFT to be able to figure out what voting power you had. So different NFTs actually had different voting powers, which gamified the whole traits part of the NFTs. After the Divine Tribunal, we actually airdropped different apples. And so one of these apples was considered a bad apple. And with that bad apple, if you wanted to get the other apple, the Ascension apple, you actually had to burn one of your regular NFTs as well as the bad apple, and that would yield you a new Ascension apple, which were used to mutate the DAs into a new form. And then we built out a custom proposal system. So these are very commonly used to be like, hey, what does the community want to do? And can we get these things accepted through the community and in their eyes? So we use the proposal system for people to kind of produce what ideas do they have and what do they like. And this uses, again, signatures, governance, and voting power. Then we launched a Wasteland collection. This was airdropped according to the evaluation of transactions and calculated gas spent. This was due to a lot of gas being spent when we originally launched. We had a lot of hype, and a lot of people paid a lot of gas to be able to mint. And so we actually calculated how much gas did they spend, and then we airdropped to those people as like a reward for spending so much money on us. Then we launched the Spirit Animal collection. This was an interesting, different experience where we actually used reservations to prevent that gas war. And so when people wanted to accept something, we kind of made it like a race. And instead of having gas wars, we actually create reservations on our server side, and then we give them authorization to the contract directly, so that they can mint at whatever time they want, and they can pay whatever gas fees they want. So if you really wanted to, you could have waited until like 3 a.m. when gas is like super low, and then paid like $2. Some of our future efforts are we're going to have the Ascension, so that has to do with the Ascension apple that we have to build. We are also personalizing storytelling with like short animations, which is what we just showed you guys earlier when we first came in. We also have a world map that we're building out, and in this world map, we actually are going to be building questing, and those quests are kind of related based on the traits that you own. So this is, again, gamifying those traits and the stuff that you actually own through Web3. And then the currency has to be done based on being able to do those quests as like kind of a reward that will kind of run the efforts. We're also connecting merch to gamified experiences, and then we have this idea of fusion where we're trying to take all the collections and the different traits that you were able to get in different collections, merge them together, and be able to pick whatever traits that you want and kind of build out your own personalization of whatever you want to do. And then talking about some challenges for ETH. There's transaction fees for gamification, right? Like if anybody's trying to do any kind of game, there's always usually a lot of interactions, and that usually means that you have to pay gas fee for each one of these things. So the way that we solve that is we used signatures. So we were able to provide identity and then do certain things on a server side. And then once we're ready to commit that to the chain, we kind of give them authorization to go into the chain. Then getting users from an exchange to a personally owned wallet. Obviously, most of the people here probably have already used like MetaMask or one of these other personalized wallets, but trying to get somebody out of like a Coinbase exchange or a Binance exchange, for example, and being able to have them use a real wallet and get smart contract interactions is sometimes hard to convert because they might have never used MetaMask before or some other wallet extension. Then you have wallet security, right? So like you finally converted these guys, and then with that wallet security, we're now putting people in danger because they've never had a MetaMask wallet or they've never had a Coinbase wallet and they've never experienced this stuff before. And then you have immutability, which is once you put the contract out, you can't take it back unless you use a proxy. And proxies, again, are hurting decentralization if that's what we're going for. And then for more info, just check us out at divineanarchy.com. We also have a booth. Divine Anarchy is our Twitter handler. And if you want to check me out, my Twitter handler is DiversityETH.